Great. So I will start with introductions and I'll just call folks as I see them. But to start, I'm Chris Hayes, Housing and Economic Development Manager for NIMCOG. And I'll just go call on people as I see them, and you can say your name and who you might be represented on the CEDS committee, starting with Gary. Oh, starting with Jerry.
Oh, yes, I'm the senior lender for the Washington Savings Bank, and I'm also a NEMCOG counselor and serve as vice chair of the planning board for the city of Lowell.
Isabel.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Isabel Emmett. I'm the new Regional Land Use Planner 2 at NIMCOG.
Stephen.
Hi, Steve Thumlis, my business, Nicholas Payne Construction out of Pepperell. I'm also a NIMCOG, Vice Chair of NIMCOG Council, and I'm also Chairman of the Economic Development Advisory Committee in Pepperell and also on the Board of Health. Thank you.
Jason.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jason Palich, Executive Director of the 495 Metro West Partnership. We share the town of Westford with MCOG, and this is my first time on a CEDS meeting, so thanks for having me.
Allie.
Hello, I'm Allie Carter. I'm the Director of Economic Development for the City of Lowell.
Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Bunting. I'm the Senior Program Manager for the Greater Lowell Workforce Board.
Steve Sadwick.
Yeah, Steve Sadwick, Assistant Town Manager, Town of Tewksbury.
Stephanie.
Stephanie Cronin, I'm the Executive Director of the Middlesex Free Coalition and the Middlesex Free Team Bank.
Ian.
Hi, all. I am Ian Burns. I am from the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. I oversee our community and economic development team here. We are the planning commission that borders NIMCOG's region. We're their sister agency here. Our region goes from Lawrence all the way to Newburyport. We have our own CEDS and our own CEDS committee. So as Chris and I have been chatting, we thought it'd be smart for us to hop in every now and then on each other's meetings, considering although we're the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, we're all really the Merrimack Valley. So we thought it'd be smart to stay up to date on each other's initiatives. So I'm mostly going to be here to listen and learn what you all are up to.
Absolutely. And I'd say we have Middlesex 3 that helps us think about communities south of us, but not necessarily east of us. So Ian can really help us make those connections. Lisa.
Hello, Lisa Maroney, Director of Business Development for the town of Chelmsford.
Eric.
Hi, Eric Salerno, I'm the Town Planner and Economic Development Director up here in Tingsboro.
And then last but not least, Bobby.
Bobby Tuielli, President, CEO of the LEAP Network.
Great, thanks so much. So the next element is the set schedule of goals. I'm going to share my screen so that let me just actually I'll keep it like this so I can add people's things. But can you see this?
Yes.
Great. So as you know, we have 22 goals that we've listed, each one with different action steps. I've got one slide per goal, so I'll talk about the action steps that we do have updates for on each of these. And then please, I'll pause at the end for people to add anything that they have that are associated with any of these goals. The first one being planning for housing at local and regional levels. MBTA communities and supportive housing are kind of their own thing. So this is just planning for housing. I want to start off saying that we've got some pretty good signs that we're getting funding from the state for the regional housing strategy at home in Greater Lowell. That's a $250,000 total project, which includes a couple of grants and a NIMCOG match. We've also started meeting with municipal officials, Kelly Lindemann and I, to talk about refining the scope of that project. I won't get into details now, but if you want to ask, I can talk more about what that project is, but I think I've probably talked about it before. But we are looking to have a major kickoff summit, either November or December, trying to kind of have a meeting of the minds and really springboard off of the regional meeting on homelessness that we had recently, but extend that conversation to all facets of housing. Affordable housing, supportive housing, market rate housing, and the challenges for all of those. And would be potentially going through a planning process over the next year with 2 other major summits and several storytelling and toolkit elements, along with kind of traditional data. On the local side, the Tewksbury Housing Production Plan is completed. Dunstable is its final draft housing production plan. And Lowell Housing Production Plan is on track for hopefully an early 2024 acceptance, finishing the draft in 2023, and then kind of going through public comment and planning board and the council early next year. I'll pause here in case anybody else has any housing planning updates they want to add. Or questions?
I guess, Chris, Jerry, it's just a question. That third bullet, tentative major kickoff summit in November, December. Is that, you mentioned the various types of housing. Is that for the region? Is that would it be held at different locations? Is that?
One meeting for the region.
Okay.
So that's bringing together. What we're really thinking about is trying to get folks to be able to talk across borders more as part of this regional plan.
Right, which is what I would love to see that. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The next goal was the supportive housing with wraparound services. I had a great meeting discussing this in depth with Jay Linehan from the Greater Lowell Community Foundation, Alison Lamy at Lowell Plan. They all got pulled away, so can't be here. So I'm kind of super summarizing. But first of all, we did have the regional meeting on homelessness in August. I know at least a few folks on this call were there. We had over about 150 folks there from probably about 2/3 to 3/4 from Greater Lowell agencies like CTI and a lot of other Greater Lowell agencies that deal with homelessness, housing, or service provision. And then about 25% municipal officials, people from the state level, etc. And we are going to actually be releasing next steps from that kind of minutes and next steps from that soon. That really is a City of Lowell. That meeting was kind of the City of Lowell initiated that meeting and asked NIMCOG to help facilitate. So it's partially in the City of Lowell's court, and I don't want to step on their toes, but I thought it was a really great meeting. There was a goal in the CEDS document of 300 supportive housing units, or specifically figuring out a phased plan for 300 housing units. That's a goal. What kind of timeline are we hoping for? Who's, really in charge of keeping up to date? That's still being figured out, but CTI has reported that 59 units are complete and they're still working on more. But we really want to kind of discuss further with CTI on those issues. So I just want to make sure these messages I'm getting on my phone have nothing to do with this meeting. Oh, any questions or additional updates about supportive housing and homelessness? Okay. Next section, MBTA community multifamily compliance. I don't have the latest up to date from Lowell. I believe it was their ordinance for section 3A was referred to a subcommittee of the Lowell City Council, I believe. Tewksbury and Westford completed surveys. NIMCOG provided compliance modeling for some of the proposed districts in those surveys, and NIMCOG's also been working with all the other communities in one fashion or another to advance their MBTA compliant district scenarios. I don't know if anybody else wants to share any news, any items of interest. The nice thing is that we do have a monthly meeting that all of the community planners are invited to, where they kind of share all these updates and best practices and questions and answers together in the NIMCOG region, the 7 MBTA communities that are in the NIMCOG region. And I found it very illuminating. So we don't need to get too much into detail here, but if anybody has any questions or updates they'd really like to share, I'd love to hear them.
Chris, Jerry, again, just give you the where the MBTA community zoning amendment is. It's the draft was sent to the planning board and it's scheduled to go before us on October 16th.
Okay, great. Okay, moving on to the next one. Local and regional water and wastewater infrastructure plan and implementation. As we've been talking to a lot of communities about housing, the infrastructure issue has definitely come up again and again, also for economic development. So this is kind of high up in this list for a reason. NIMCOG did complete a report, Danielle, who presented that at a municipal CEO meeting recently. Wrapped up that report. It has several recommendations, and we're kind of exploring whether we can help with any type of regionalization grants or other funding opportunities to explore feasibility, basically. I think we're at kind of a feasibility study type of thing for really big moves. Each community is, of course, working on its own I&I, infiltration and whatever it is, but making sure no stormwater gets into the sewer system. Some communities are in different spots in terms of their capacity, but in terms of bigger coordination and bigger moves towards increasing our capacity, we're probably at the feasibility stage where we need to get cost estimates and things, is what we believe. NIMCOG also plans to reach out to Pepperell and Dunstable to discuss PFAS needs and issues. There was kind of a PFAS task force action item. And as a first step toward forming that, we want to talk to the communities that have so far been most impacted, knowing that more communities are seeing an impact. I know Chelmsford has recently had an impact as well. And then finally, MS4 permitting is a huge action item every year, and we are offering assistance. It seems like communities are on track and have no problems to that. There will be a new MS4 permit coming up, and details on that are still scarce, is my understanding. Does anybody have any questions or updates for infrastructure planning?
Hey, Chris, on the NIMCOG reaching out to Pepperell and Dunstable, I mean, how can NIMCOG help those communities? I mean, what's your plan of approach or attack in terms of what? Looking for maybe help with some kind of funding for PFAS mediation, or what's NIMCOG thinking of?
I would say that although we've had a lot of conversations, we haven't had any focused ones to really even understand what your needs are. So that's kind of the first step, is to better understand what the needs are.
Okay.
If that's funding, it could be grant writing assistance.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
Coordination, it could be something else.
Yeah, grant writing for sure. Thank you.
Write that note there.
Mhm.
Anybody else have any questions or? Regional energy and sustainability planning and coordination is the next goal area. We're hoping for a doer repo announcement before the end of October. That is what funds a lot of our energy and green communities planning efforts from Daniela, if you've worked with her. Part of that would include a series of workshops to build inter-regional energy coordination and skills. And that's part of the action item of creating a sustainability collaborative. So at this point, we don't think we're going to in 2023 form a collaborative, but this is kind of the first step where we see who's coming to these kind of peer sharing activities, and that can really start building some interregional coordination, intermunicipal coordination, intra-regional. We also are going to be unveiling a web page on our website soon that includes plan documents from each community, like each community's comprehensive master plan, each community's open space and recreation plan, and the expiration dates that are set in these, whether the community sets them or the state, the housing production plans, hazard mitigation plans, and so forth. Hoping that this will help both communicate to the public, where to find the plans in a really easy to access location, but also, maybe even more importantly, make sure it helps us track the expiration of these plans, so we can in advance think about what kind of technical assistance that we as NIMCOG could provide to communities for plan making. And also one of those elements was thinking, are there opportunities for multi-jurisdictional plans? For example, I know NIMCOG did a regional hazard mitigation plan that expired a few years ago. Are there more opportunities for those type of regional plans that help fulfill the community's planning requirements at the state or federal levels? So that is something that we will be looking for your active participation in. I'll be sending a link out soon, because what better than the committee to look and say, this isn't our most recent plan, we updated it last year, why don't you have that plan? So that's kind of what we'll be looking for soon. We also got news that Westford completed its version 2 of the climate roadmap back in February. So I think Danny had been tracking that, but it was news to me, and that's great. And they've been moving some implementation steps and thinking about next steps on that. Any other questions, updates on the regional energy or other action steps related to that?
Chris, I just have a question. Are all NIMCOG communities green communities at this time or not?
I don't actually know.
Yeah. Well, I know Pepperell is. I just don't know about the other communities. How many more are green communities? When you have that statement here, so just wondering, working together, how that, impact NIMCOG's outreach, for whatever funding we can get.
Yeah, if it's not all of them, it's a majority. I don't know if anybody else knows their green community status off the top of their heads.
According to your website,
That's
it's
the way.
Billerica, Chelmsford, Dracut, Dunstable, Pepperell. It should be, there are currently 6 communities.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll put the list in the chat.
Yeah, 6 out of 9. That's good.
Thanks for finding the information on our website.
Hey, there's a lot on there, but
Yeah.
I Googled it and you came up right away. So you've got great SEO.
I was too lazy to move my index finger.
Yeah, that's all 9.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one is to enhance regional transportation planning. So Envision 2050 was endorsed in August. That plan will start. That's the long-range transportation plan for the Northern Middlesex MPO, which is NIMCOG, coterminus. That plan will start in effect as of October 1st, and that is on our website. This also included an action for Safe Streets and Roads for All that we are coordinating with MVPC on that. We've released an RFP for a consultant, and we've been doing a listening tour to talk to municipal officials and identifying an advisory committee. And my understanding is we're still looking for 3 to 4 members of that advisory committee. I don't know anything about the committee, but I will have a flyer soon that I can definitely share with the group that talks about that advisory committee a little bit more. And then finally, there's a lot of other activities that we have in terms of regional transportation planning, but as you may or may not know, Justin does excuse me. Justin left NIMCOG. He moved on from NIMCOG a few months ago and has been without a transportation program manager since then. So a lot of these kind of conversations about planning haven't been happening as robustly at NIMCOG as we had hoped to when we set this schedule of goals. But a new manager, Paul Christner, Paul Christner, will be starting in mid-September in just a few days, I think next week actually. So we will probably in October, when he gets up to speed, start getting a better understanding of which actions have been done, which could be done in 2024, 2023, and which would be 2024. We are definitely open if your community or agency or you personally think that one of the actions should really be elevated to the top and that we should really have a discussion about it. This is a great time to talk about prioritization as we're coming towards the end of the thing. So if anybody else has any updates or even actions that they want to ask about, or just think that we should keep a hand over, I know you probably don't have the actions in front of us, so you can also always email me. But are there any questions or updates about that?
Chris, when are the MPO meetings?
They are via Zoom.
Is it on the
They
website?
are
That's right.
I should look it up on the website.
Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Fourth Wednesdays?
Fourth Wednesdays.
I believe they're fourth Wednesdays at 2 p.m.
Okay, cool. I might like crash a party someday soon.
That's great. I don't know if I don't know if Lowell has anybody that comes regularly. I know Lowell used to, but that was back when I was in Lowell, not here at NIMCOG. So I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
If Liz goes to those or what.
Yeah. Okay. I'll ask her.
Whoops, y'all looking at my calendar. Any other questions or comments or priorities, transportation planning? We're going through these quick. Transit and alternative transportation connections is kind of the next one, and it's really an extension of that transportation planning, but talking about focusing on transit especially. That seemed to be very important to the committee at when we were putting this plan together, and also active transportation. We hired a new regional transportation planner in August. His name is Blake Acton. He's been working with LRTA to begin to kind of take over Chris Curry's role, if any of you had ever worked with Chris Curry. And kind of the same situation I mentioned before, where we hopefully in October will really be digging in to understand which steps we can work on and make progress on this year and which ones might be next year. Same thing, if one of these transit or activities is important, let me know. And then finally, the other big element, there were kind of two other big elements outside of transit. One was forming a pedestrian and bicycle, not a pedestrian, but just a bicycle subcommittee of the CEDS committee to start talking about biking and economic development and and doing interregional coordination. We're trying to figure out the best way to do that, which complements the Safe Routes and Streets for All, which is also about active transportation, but more about safety rather than economic development. So hopefully we'll be reaching out soon with an invitation to see if people might be interested in having that conversation in a subcommittee way, or how the committee would like to proceed. If anybody has any feelings right now, I know I'm a broken record, but please share. I want a lot of interaction. And then the other element, it's just on the screen there, is the Go Lowell Alternative Transportation Plan implementation, which I did see several of the goals of Go Lowell in recent Lowell Forward, which is Lowell's comprehensive master plan, which is being developed as we speak. I don't know if there's any other updates that anybody would like to share or questions. Hearing none. Next one is to continue to focus on transportation safety and state of good repair on projects of regional importance. It mentioned there are several specific projects mentioned in the action, including, for example, the Rourke Bridge is the big one. I don't have any NIMCOG updates though. Are there any partner updates for any projects that we may have emailed you about? Oh, Jason.
Don't have any specific project updates other than just want to highlight the 495 MetroWest partnership is actually tomorrow kicking off an exercise to refresh our long-term listing of transportation projects of regional significance. Obviously, our region is a little bit different than yours. We go as far north as Westford. I will tell you the Rotary on Route 2 in West Concord. We're hearing a lot of feedback on that, causing problems for points west, but even though our service area only overlaps a little bit, we are kicking off tomorrow an effort to sort of refresh our 10-year outlook on what we lift up. For our region, we focus previous years on the 495 90 interchange, the 495 290 interchange, a little bit again farther away from you guys, but we're kicking off that through a working group that starts meeting tomorrow morning.
I have an update too. We got $21 million in federal funding for from that RAISE grant program for upgrading our bridges, a number of bridges downtown. So that's a big deal. Go Liz, go Lori Trahan.
Is that kind of like the Tiger Project?
Yeah, it's just called RAISE now. Let's see. Broadway Street Bridge, Swamp Locks Bridge, Lower Pawtucket Canal. And it's separate from the $135 million we got last year to replace the Rourke Bridge.
Have you been up to date on any of the updates with the Rourke Bridge? I was following the working group, but I haven't heard from them recently.
No, I don't have anything detailed at the moment, but I can ask Liz and share back with you.
Okay, cool.
Chris, we haven't had a advisory committee in a while on that, so I think we're due to have one coming up, but it has not been I'm on the advisory group, and it has not been lately.
Okay.
Since they announced the funding.
Jason, sorry to jump back to you, but you kind of were talking about, do the projects of regional significance, is that really focused on only the projects for us, it would just be Westford, or is it things that impact your communities, even if it might not be in the community?
That's a great question, and it's the second one. It's impact. So Concord is not one of our municipalities. I have Westford, Littleton, Acton, Boxborough, Harvard, Maynard, Sudbury, and then down south. But the Rotary in West Concord for Route 2 has been highlighted as a concern for some of our communities to the west. I'll give you another example. We have regional priorities when it comes to the Alston Multimodal Project, which will impact both commuting on the Pike as well as commuter rail ridership to points west. So we do consider projects outside of the actual footprint of our 36 cities and towns if there's an impact to our service area.
I'd love to stay in the loop, or probably our transportation team stay in the loop on that.
You're about to be the recipient of a lovely 6-page memo from me. Congratulations.
Sounds great. Okay, the next one is presumably of interest to Mass Hire. It's regional partnerships for workforce recruitment, retainage, and development. So I will get into this in more detail in a few minutes after this agenda item, but we're integrating workforce elements into our 5-year CEDS plan process. One of the action items was to help coordinate. Everybody has different business databases and try and coordinate those so we have some regional idea of what businesses do what in our region, how many people they employ. We're still looking for capacity to do that. It's really getting a lot of information from a bunch of sources and putting it into one pot. We also want to work with Mass Hire, and for health items, the Greater Lowell Health Alliance, Lowell Community Health Center, and Brent wasn't able to come today, but to better understand any needs of progress on other items. And there's a lot of partner activities too, so I wanted to pause to see if there are any updates in terms of regional partnerships, the action items listed therein.
In terms of capacity, we're hiring let me start that sentence over. We've got funding for a new position in the Economic Development Office for a neighborhood business coordinator. It used to be the downtown coordinator, but we're making it for all the neighborhoods. So that person will be tracking vacancy, inventorying at the neighborhood level on a routine basis. We also have some CDBG funding at a sort of higher level than we've previously offered for business expansion into Lowell or within Lowell. So if your business is already open in Lowell but wants to expand, or if you want to come to Lowell as a business, we're going to offer CDBG grants, or I should say forgivable loans of up to $30,000 for a job creation. And we're using ARPA money to, and a lot of communities have done this, but we're going to do it too. We're using ARPA money to fund a retail incubator and hopefully funnel some of the more successful brands in that incubator into brick and mortar retail locations elsewhere in the city if they have a successful experience in the incubator.
Right, or businesses. That's you guys are busy.
There was all this time we were spending COVID money that we sort of fell behind on our CDBG spending. So we're like, oh, let's spend a bunch of CDBG money now. And it's a good time to do it.
Any other updates for workforce recruitment, retainage, development? We've got strengthening partnerships for regional equity and health, food access, and economic outcomes. I will admit that this is an item that NIMCOG has not been tracking well at all. So we have no idea what types of progress or advances have been happening. We have a number of CBOs on our committee, none of which are able to make it today. So we really do want to maybe have a CBO, i.e. the community-based organization, a nonprofit. So we want to have a meeting of some of those to better understand any progress or needs. This one was particularly on food access, but there's all sorts of different elements to that. So that's something we're considering. Are there any other updates or questions about that? Again, that would be kind of a Q4, end of the year type of thing if we're able to pull it together. Implement the ERP to strengthen the resiliency of regional healthcare systems. I have exactly the same update. If there's no any questions or other partner updates, I think some of our partners who would normally have updates weren't able to make it today. Strengthening childcare networks to support employment opportunities and economic mobility for child guardians. Similar update, no update. We want to explore whether we can look into this. This is something that NIMCOG could potentially do on its own because it is a lot about zoning and policy and land use, but we would need to partner with communities, and there's a lot of different things on everybody's plate. So potentially we might think about the childcare aspect looking into more 2024. And again, the committee is here to say, whoa, this needs to happen sooner. But please let me know if you have questions, comments, or otherwise. Finally, I have something with a good update. Regional Digital Equity Plan. NIMCOG and MAPC are finalizing our subcontract, which means we can kick off the Regional Digital Equity Plan that I've been talking about for the entire year. MAPC is reaching out to the lead municipality, which is the city of Lowell, to schedule kickoff meetings. So basically, the city of Lowell is kind of the first contact. I don't know if they've reached out to Sophie yet, who is the primary contact at the city. But the idea would be to see when the city was ready to be the lead agency and start this project. And then we would look to kind of have a kickoff meeting with all the municipalities. The other kind of update is that you may or may not know that there's a statewide listening session on a date that I forget, but it's coming up soon.
Chris, are you talking about the session on September 20th?
Yes, that's the one I'm talking about. Thank you.
Yeah, it's September 20th from 6 to 8 p.m. at I have it in my notes somewhere. It's I think it's 35 Warren Street. I can't remember what the place is called. I just remember the address.
Is it at UTEC?
Yes, I believe it's UTEC. Mm-hmm.
I can definitely share that via email as well to everybody on this committee, or Isabel can. Any other questions about the digital equity plan? For grant application administration capacity building, DLTAA call for ideas is going out soon. And we also have researched, kind of gone through two different tracks. One is trying to get a better idea of the grant and funding landscape, and also looking for municipal plans, including OSRPs, master plans, et cetera, in our region to get a better understanding of what potential unfunded priorities you might have, because we've got this pot of money called DLTAA that's specifically for the purpose of grant writing, grant research, grant administration, i.e. like writing reports for grants, et cetera. And we will want to start working with communities to start providing those services to communities. We're also using that pot of money for some of the other grants I've been talking about. That should hopefully be coming out really soon to the town managers of each of your communities. Does anybody have any questions about that? City of Lowell master plan was a action item. Ally, I don't know if you want to give a 10-second update.
Yeah, I emailed it to you.
Oh,
But
You did.
hang on,
Mhm.
hang on. To be fair, I did it during this meeting.
Mhm.
Blah, blah, blah. Sorry. Okay. The Lowell Forward comprehensive update, it's approximately 75% finished. We anticipate completing the project in February 2024. We've completed an extensive existing conditions analysis and multi-pronged community engagement strategy with 3 surveys, 1,500 plus responses, 3 workshops, another workshop scheduled in October, a listening tour. We're now developing our goals and actions matrix, and working with NIMCOG on the housing production plan and integrating transportation, like you mentioned earlier.
cool. Any
Fran
questions?
says it much better in her email.
This is the like short 10-second version, so no problems.
Yeah.
The revitalization of regional network and village neighborhood centers. We've completed the Westford Brownfield report. Westford did get a $500,000 grant for 12 North Main, so that's really focused on Graniteville. Preliminary Lowell Open Streets report should be completed in the next 1 to 2 weeks, hopefully, with a finalization in October. And that's to potentially do a pilot project to close part of a downtown street for various programming. Westford approved their commercial overlay district that includes entertainment such as the Neshoba Valley ski area and the ice cream place that's slipping my mind right now, but y'all probably
Kimball's?
Yeah, Kimball's. Are there any other updates, questions about regional network of village centers? Zoning and permitting practices. Stephanie sent out the Middlesex 3 permitting matrix to a lot of town officials and planners, and we're trying to help with that. That's basically kind of a list of best practices in which communities are doing those best practices. Tingsboro is anticipating Attorney General approval. Pepperell draft subdivision revisions are complete and hearings in October. And Drake inclusionary zoning report is complete, and it recommended a market study to determine the proper amount of inclusionary zoning to allow. Industrial and mixed use development. That's mostly projects in Tingsboro and Lowell, so I don't know if there are any updates beyond what's on the screen from them, from y'all. If not, small business coordination. We this should be continuity. This is another one which we actually did get a lot of strategies sent to us, so we might try to put them all together and then share them out so people can kind of see various strategies that were shared about ARPA spending. We also are looking to better understand the small business assistance providers to identify gaps and assist with those, not providing programming, but perhaps looking for funding and that type of thing. Are there any questions or updates there? Trying to go through these quick. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I'd regret not opening up a potential invite to businesses in the communities that are on the call today, like Westford. Drake, Tingsboro, and Chelmsford are hosting a small business. We're calling it a mini conference next week on the 19th. So while we've been promoting the event to businesses in those communities, it looks like we'll probably have some room for others. You can get links to that on tingsboro.ma.gov/big-ideas. Or you can check out the Entrepreneurship Center on the CTI website. But it's Tingsboro MA without a dash.
Oh, okay,
And then, but you got the big dash ideas correct.
okay.
Thank you for the 90-second promo spot.
Next item is enhanced tourism and visitation. Kind of a similar update. We haven't focused on it too much. Hopefully finishing a report in Q4 and having one meeting, final meeting of the year for that committee that many of you were on. The Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce and many others shared some shop local strategies. Same thing, want to share them via email. If there are any other updates that people want to talk about or ask about. Economic Development District application was an action item, and we're expecting an update in August or September. We got good news from EDA. They sent it up the pipeline, said that we would get an update in August. We said, maybe that means September. Halfway through September, haven't heard anything yet. So we're probably, if we don't hear from them in September, we'll reach out to October to see what our EDD status is, and that should open us up to some more regular economic development funding. And then finally, last piece, preparing for the 2024 CEDS report. And the big news here is that we've got a 5-year CEDS application. In the last 10 minutes, I want to talk about that, unless anybody else has any questions about that. Okay, I shouldn't have put myself on 2 agenda items in a row because I feel like I'm talking way too much, but I'll try and go through this really quickly because I don't want to keep people over. But I do want to share this with the CEDS committee, and if you want to stay late to ask questions, that's absolutely okay. But I'll go through this really quickly first. So hold questions, and at the end, questions and discussion for anybody who can stay. Big picture, as you probably know, our 5-year CEDS expires in May of 2025. We need to update it before then, and what we are suggesting is a year-long process that would start in early 2024 and end in early 2025, and would have a new 5-year CEDS. So for those who are new to the committee, we've done these little annual reports where we do a year kind of look ahead. This is a bigger kind of once every 5 years framework that we then have those little reports and look at, year-long look aheads every year after that. So this is like much larger in size than what we usually do once a year. We did develop a problem statement that mostly focuses around how we have an amazing industry mix and amazing educational resources, but we still seem to have trouble, what NIMCOG has heard, recruiting and retaining talent, connecting labor opportunities with many of those who are living especially in central Lowell, but hard to reach populations throughout the region, and really capitalizing on the industry clusters, which is less of a problem and more of an opportunity that we could really probably work more on. We've developed this project through discussing this with everybody, including you. So based on that problem and the goals, obviously, is to continue eligibility for EDA funds. That's why we do this every 5 years. But we want to also strengthen partnerships, provide stronger background justification for federal grants, identify key bottlenecks in the labor force availability to understand that issue more. But then there's also a number of other challenges. Infrastructure is huge, permitting is huge, and then also energy, marketing, supply chain, availability of capital, freight transportation, and sustainability are all things that we want to at least touch upon and know that those are challenges in the region. We're looking at a $150,000 budget, which would be a $75,000 grant, $75,000 from the federal EDA. That would include 10,000, thanks Ian for joining, 10,000 for a labor study, and the rest basically would be NIMCOG expenses, at least according to our current budget. For major components, we're thinking about doing, for those of you who have been around for a while, last time we did this, we did like a bunch of kind of mini regional SWOT sessions, strengths, weakness, opportunity, threat sessions. We're thinking about changing it and instead doing a number of focus groups and key informant interviews over the course of many months, also collecting data, also doing a consultant study where they create a causal model, and we've been working with somebody who does these type of things and does systems dynamic studies to better understand all of the elements that are impacting labor availability. So not just workforce development, but housing and transportation and all the other issues that are affecting this. Those all will go into an existing conditions summary, and then we're looking to have a major summit in fall of 2024. So about a year from now, a year and a few months from now, bringing together everybody in the region to really develop strategies and partnerships to tackle the issues that we identified in that previous planning process. And then we would be looking towards the CEDS committee to guide us through the completion of the CEDS and associated reports based on all of that work that we would have done. Talking about the holistic labor study, it would involve a lot of other elements as well. Timeline, the takeaway really is that it would be a year-long process that would look towards March 2025, so that first quarterly meeting to pass the 5-year CEDS. One thing that I'd love to get feedback on, $75,000 is too much to pay our existing staff because we're already pretty close to capacity, but not enough for another staff. So how should we tackle this if we do pursue this grant? We could hire a consultant, we could hire a new staff person and pay partially through this grant and partially through other sources. And what would that staff person do besides working on this grant would be a big question, or we could try distributing amongst existing staff. So that's a decision internal to NIMCOG, but we offer we would love your input on that. And so basically the questions are we missing any big goals? Should we adjust any proposed activities? Are there opportunities for collaboration? And if we do look towards expanding our staff capacity, what should we be doing to help the region, helping our partnerships over across our borders? Well, Ian left, but to our partners across our borders and within our borders. Sorry, that was, I know, probably about 5 to 10 minutes less than it deserved, but I now want to kind of open it up for all final kind of comments, questions about this process or about anything else.
So Chris, in terms of updates, when will be our next meeting we all get together in terms of agenda and stuff like that, minutes?
3 months. We did not approve minutes today. Well, 3 months and we'll do the minutes for both meetings. But it's just, we're on the quarterly schedule. This one was a weird date, but next time we'll go back to the regular date of the first Thursday in December.
Okay, thank you.
And at that point, we'll be starting the final annual report of the previous 5-year CEDS. So we will begin to talk about thanks, Bobby. The data that we're collecting, making sure there's any other data needs you want, and looking forward to creating that next schedule of goals, the same type of thing that I went through, you know, through about the last 30-40 minutes.
Okay.
I just want to say, I think the idea of doing focus groups is smart.
Are there any particular focus groups do you think we should definitely include, or?
Looking more, oh, yes, Bobby, I can definitely talk about that more with you. I have to look back to your presentation about what you put in there, because I only have a minor visual recall of it. But
sure.
I think like it's like you could do it a lot of different ways. You could do it by like sector, you could do it I don't know, but I like the idea of working it that way, because you could almost cross-reference the municipality with the focus group you're working on and see which geographies are impacted more by certain I don't know. I'm not doing well with my words, but you get what I'm saying, right? I need to drink some coffee, clearly. But I think like hot topics in certain cities, but I think like it's better to do that than like a city by city approach, but to have it be like by subject.
I agree with Ally as well too, and I put some real estate developers, brokers in the mix as well too, because they're usually.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we kind of thought about that as we mentioned business leaders, but making sure that we really concentrate not just on businesses in general, but real estate.
And your educational institutions too. I know you put Mass Higher, but I didn't see like UMass Law with MCC and.
Yeah, we have educational institutions. And we're trying, yeah, of course, you're on the although not represented today, they are on the subcommittee, on the CEDS committee as well. Thanks, Jason. We're basically done, unless anybody else has any new business or final thoughts that we want to share. I will provide potentially more information. I'm having conversations with a lot of different folks about this application. I'll provide some information via email about that as well, so that people who aren't here can also provide comment as we hope to apply for that grant in October.
Thanks, Chris.